Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. It's been a very eventful weekend, right? With the the thing that happened at the correspondence dinner. Uh I just had to wait to see what Lion Caroline Levitt had to say this morning about what happened to the president, and she didn't disappoint. As usual, she didn't disappoint with her lion ways and her lion mouth. So I just don't understand how we can go back to normal when this president is out of office. How we gonna go back to normal with this kind of goes on?
Good
Oh,
afternoon, everyone.
is this
Later today, President Trump and the First Lady will welcome King Charles and Queen Camilla for a state visit here at the White House. First Lady Melania Trump has led all of the preparation for the state visit, which will honor the long-standing and special relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom. As I told many of you on Friday afternoon, I thought that would be my last time taking your questions until after my maternity leave. But given the attempted assassination of the president and, quote, top Trump administration officials, as the depraved shooter noted in his manifesto at the White House Correspondents Association dinner on Saturday evening, I felt it was prudent to be here today to answer your questions and inform the American people about how the administration is responding to yet another attempt on President Trump's life. Saturday was supposed to be a joyful evening, celebrating free speech and the First Amendment with all of you, members of the press. Instead, the night was hijacked by a crazed anti-Trump individual who traveled across the country to assassinate the president and as many administration officials as possible. This is the third major assassination attempt against President Trump in 2 years. No other president in history has faced such repeated, serious attempts on his life. First and foremost, the president, the first lady, and everyone in this White House are extraordinarily grateful to the brave law enforcement professionals who sprang into action to apprehend the would-be assassin and keep all of us safe. The president would especially like to express his gratitude to the men and women of the United States Secret Service who acted with the utmost professionalism, courage, and sense of duty. This includes the heroic agent who took a bullet to the chest. Thankfully, he was saved by his bulletproof vest. Minutes after returning here to the White House to the Oval Office, despite fighting Secret Service to try to stay and keep the dinner going on Saturday, ahead of addressing you here in the briefing room, President Trump was intent on speaking to this brave agent to ensure he was okay. And the agent assured the president that he was. As you know, I was seated next to President Trump and the First Lady when the shots were fired before Secret Service swiftly moved us to safety backstage. The president's calm in the face of chaos, while yet another individual was trying to take his life, was really remarkable to witness, and it's something I will never forget. President Trump is fearless because he loves this country. He is willing to put his own life on the line to deliver on the promises that he made to the American public who elected him here into the highest office in the land. And while we are blessed to have a fearless president, we should not live in a country where such constant fear of political violence permeates our society every single day. We can and we should have fierce disagreement in this country. As you all know, we disagree often, myself in this role and all of you in the news media, but those disagreements must remain peaceful. Debating, peaceful protesting, and voting are how we need to settle disagreements, not bullets. Nobody in recent years has faced more bullets and more violence than President Trump. This political violence stems from a systemic demonization of him and his supporters by commentators, yes, by elected members of the Democrat Party, and even some in the media. This hateful and constant and violent rhetoric directed at President Trump day after day after day for 11 years has helped to legitimize this violence and bring us to this dark moment. Those who constantly falsely label and slander the president as a fascist, as a threat to democracy, and compare him to Hitler to score political points are fueling this kind of violence. The left-wing cult of hatred against the president and all of those who support him and work for him has gotten multiple people hurt and killed, and it almost did so again this weekend. When you read the manifesto of this shooter, ask yourselves, how different is the rhetoric from this almost assassin than what you read on social media and hear in various forums every single day? The answer, if you're being honest with yourself, is that there is no difference at all. Much of the manifesto of the would-be assassin is indistinguishable from the words that we hear daily from so many. For example, as the First Lady of the United States pointed out this morning, just 2 days prior to the shooting, ABC's late night host Jimmy Kimmel disgustingly called First Lady Melania Trump an expectant widow. Who in their right minds says a wife would be glowing over the potential murder of her beloved husband? And having experienced what I did with the First Lady on Saturday night, I can tell you that she was anything but that. This kind of rhetoric about the president, the First Lady, and his supporters is completely deranged, and it's unbelievable that the American people are consuming it night after night after night. As President Trump said on Saturday night at this podium, we as Americans must recommit ourselves to resolving our differences peacefully and uniting around the shared values that make our country great. The deranged lies and smears against the president, his family, his supporters have led crazy people to believe crazy things, and they are inspired to commit violence because of those words.
And they never take accountability for nothing that this president says or does. They never take accountability that this president brought this kind of rhetoric to the public forum. You never, ever heard President Obama. You never, ever heard Biden. You never, ever heard George Bush. You never heard none of those men speak like this president ever to anybody. And I thought that by an attempt, first of all, I don't even believe this was an assassination attempt for the president. So they dusting it up like it's a major thing. And he was in there with a gun, and I get all of that. But most of this stuff sounds goofy to me. Why? Because you have the three people that are closest to the presidential seat in one building. And you mean to tell me that y'all didn't have all their security? Y'all didn't have every exit covered. Y'all didn't have every exit covered, every corner covered, every chair covered. You didn't have and you had the FBI in the building, and you had all of these people in the building that were the next in line to the presidency, and you didn't have none. You didn't have enough security. Somehow this dude got in. Y'all didn't have these people blocked off. Y'all didn't have none of this stuff blocked off, and he managed to run past 5 of y'all. 3 people closest to the presidency. The next 3 people in line for the presidency was in that room. And you let somebody get in the building who had a gun. So, and he wasn't nowhere near the president. See, I'm beginning to think some of this shit be staged. Why would I put it past this president? This is the type of people that he have around him. People who like to perform stunts. People who perform stunts that be around him, stunts and smoke screens and all that shit.
It has to stop. And one more point. Saturday night served as yet another reminder of how important it is to fund the Department of Homeland Security. It is shameful that the United States Congress has kept this vital agency defunded for 73 days, the longest shutdown of a federal agency in U.S. history. The Secret Service is a vital component of DHS, and it has been directly impacted by this reckless political gamesmanship. Everyone in this room who was there on Saturday night witnessed the heroes of Secret Service and federal law enforcement jump into action in the face of grave danger and uncertainty. Agents put their own lives in harm's way to protect the president, the First Lady, the Vice President, and members of the cabinet. One agent can be seen in video footage literally jumping onto the stage, not knowing where the attacker was or where the bullets were coming from at that point, to place his body in front of the President of the United States. These men and women are heroes. They perform their duties daily, and they have children and families too. And they do it despite the political turmoil surrounding their agency.
No, who's gonna be the reporter to ask the most important question? And the most important question is, why was security so lax on a night when you had all those important people in the room? When you had all those important people in the room, where was all the security that you should have had? The layers of security that you should have had. Where were they? Why weren't they there? That's a failure on your part. That's a failure on a whole bunch of people's part. Let's see if Karoline puts the blame on the security. Let's see if Karoline puts the blame on the people that actually deserve to have the blame, who did not have that building and that street and everything else covered with all of those people in that room that were the most important people to the country. Let's see if she puts it on the blame on the right people.
Make no mistake, this defunding of DHS should be a national scandal. If Republicans defunded DHS and we saw in another attempted assassination on a Democrat president, I would hope that the media coverage would be relentless and unforgiving, and I hope that it continues to be now. With the World Cup, America 250, the 2028 Olympics, and a presidential election all ahead, the Democrats' obstruction is placing an enormous and totally pointless burden on the Secret Service that can get more people killed. Enough is enough. There should be no further debate about this. Democrats need to do what President Trump has been calling on them to do for 73 days in a row and fund the Department of Homeland Security, period. This is a national emergency, and every member of Congress needs to put their country over party and get the Department of Homeland Security funded. With that, I will take a few of your questions today. Daniel, thank you for being here. Why don't you kick us off?
Thank you, Karoline. The president, Saturday after the assassination attempt, came here. He emphasized that law enforcement did their job, keeping everyone safe at dinner. House Speaker Mike Johnson came out and said he believes the president needs greater protection. What is the White House's message to the millions of Americans who wake up here today nervous, uneasy about the safety of the president at events like this and safety of other cabinet members?
Well, we certainly understand their fears and their worries. As you heard from the president himself, he continues to have trust in the United States Secret Service. As I just said, these are great men and women who are doing their jobs and performing their duties honorably. As we all witnessed on Saturday evening, within minutes, the president, the first lady, the vice president, members of the president's cabinet were ushered out of the room. The perpetrator who sought to inflict massive harm, as we all now know with the release of the manifesto on administration officials and the president himself, was stopped at the security parameter that was set up. He tried to charge through it, as you saw on video, and he was quickly neutralized by Secret Service, and thank God that he was. With that said, obviously, the White House is always asking the tough questions and ensuring the safety of the president. I understand there will be a meeting early this week convened by the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, with top DHS leadership, members of the United States Secret Service, and our own operations team here to ensure the safety and the security of the president, as we do have many of these major events moving forward. So we're always monitoring operations and procedures, always asking the tough questions to ensure the president is safe, and the American people should be assured there's no higher priority for the president and his staff than the president's safety.
No, it was a failure on you. It was a failure on the security. They should have ran that person down. Why didn't they run that person down? Why didn't they run all those people that were in that hotel? Why didn't you run all of those people down? Question is, why did you put all those people into the hotel if they weren't background checked, if they weren't fact checked? You didn't fact check these people. You should have said, you should have cleared that hotel. They should have cleared that hotel. You will get credit, and you will be able to go to another hotel days before, and then they shouldn't have never let nobody know nobody was in the hotel, and then they should have had that whole thing. Why would you not clear that hotel and then have this goofy that's upstairs with guns or downstairs with guns or wherever he was at? Why didn't you all have that hotel cleared out to make sure that nobody came out those rooms, nobody was in those rooms? We got to check every room, make sure ain't no guns in it. We got to go through the whole thing. Why y'all didn't do that? And the three top people that run our government was in that hotel. Once you knew they was going to be in there, you should have did that.
Friday, you said that you thought that gaggle out of the sticks would be your last one before your baby Back in 2024, when the president had the attempt on his life, Butler, you cut your paternity leave short back then. You're obviously back here today after Saturday. Can you just elaborate a little bit why you felt it was important to be here to bring to the media and talk to the American people from the stand?
We don't care why she's back here. She lies every time she opens her mouth. Nobody cares why she's in front of the podium. Go have your baby for your old man.
Sure. It's sort of crazy timing when you put it that way for both children with 2 assassination attempts against the president. I'm honored to work in this job. I view this job as the president's spokesperson and the White House spokeswoman as public service. It's not just any job. I'm honored to do it, and I'm honored to work and speak on behalf of President Trump, who has faced unprecedented adversity and challenge.
She makes it sound like no president had a assassination attempt. The last president, Joe Biden, had assassination attempts. They thwarted those. We never heard about them. Obama had 11 assassination attempts. They were thwarted. We never heard about them. Every time there's an assassination attempt on this goopy president, we got to hear about it. We never heard about the ones on Obama and Biden and George Bush. Why we got to hear about yours? We understand that sometimes it happens in public. This was a public thing. Of course, we should have heard about this. But the first 2, I guess they were in public too. But other people had plots against them too. She's making it sound as though this president is the only president that ever had assassination attempts. There's plenty of assassination attempts against the other presidents. Okay? Plenty.
And I'm honored to work for him. And again, as I witnessed on Saturday night, just his dogged resolve and determination to get back onto the stage. And he was pushing Secret Service and law enforcement to allow him to address. And that really, I think, hopefully gives the country the type of strength that we need. And I certainly know as his spokeswoman, and I can speak on behalf of all of the staff here.
I don't know. Why wouldn't that be considered a failure? Why wouldn't it be considered a failure that this man got as close as he did to the president and any of the people in the cabinet? Why wouldn't that be considered a failure in security? I don't understand what's going on. Okay. I don't understand why you wouldn't consider this a failure in some way, shape, or form. That man was in the building. He was in the building with guns in a room. Why wasn't those rooms checked out before anything started? Let's do a Queens. Every 4 of y'all take each floor. And we need to go in the room. We need to scope out the room. We need to make sure ain't no guns in there. We need to make sure ain't no goofy shit going on. 4 agents per floor. It was no more important business on this planet than to keep those 3 people that are in line succession of the presidency. It was nothing more important than that. And they failed to do that. So why wouldn't it be a failure on their part? And I don't know how they sweep hotels. I don't know how they do none of that stuff. But I do know all the cabinet, the 3 people in line for the presidency, the House Speaker, Senate Speaker, all of them, the FBI man was in there, CIA man was in, all of them was in that doggone room. There should have been 100 Secret Service agents. This should have been 100, 1,000 of them surrounding the hotel, in the hotel, running through rooms, running down people. That's crazy. It's a security failure on their part.
The White House, the president inspires all of us to just keep going and keep fighting every day. Thanks, Daniel. And congrats to you on your new baby. He's beautiful. Aisha.
Just on the rhetoric, you mentioned the First Lady.
I don't know, WOL thoughts. Yes, she did say 3 assassination attempts. She said 3. Okay. Obama had 11. Did you hear about the 11?
And Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel's comments were, "Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow." And he said this days before the shooting, but there does seem to be a normalization of rhetoric about assassinating this particular president. How can this administration try to put an end to this?
Well, I think you heard it directly from the president.
No, she said it when she first came out. You haven't been listening. She said it before I said anything. She said it before I said anything. I let her talk for about 9 minutes. In them 9 minutes, she said something about assassination attempts. Please listen to the video.
Saturday night, Aisha, that in his words, we need to recommit ourselves as a country to toning down the rhetoric and to unifying around what makes our country great. That's true of everyone who works in this White House. But as I said, it's also true of everyone who has a voice and a platform across this country, whether you're on television, a podcast host, people listen.
Your president needs to tone down the garbage that he says too. Nobody says anything. The no accountability White House. No accountability for the rhetoric that goes out into the atmosphere. No kind of rhetoric, no accountability for the rhetoric that she says. Jimmy Kimmel said those jokes a couple of days before this even happened. Okay. That's crazy. And then she brings that up. Oh, Jimmy Kimmel said assassination attempt. He said that days ago. He didn't say that on the day. That's wild.
And when you have mentally disturbed individuals across the country who are listening to this crazed rhetoric about the president day after day after day, it inspires them to do crazy things. And unfortunately, it's not just the media. It is the entire Democrat Party has made the
entire Democratic Party, not the Republican goofies. All the FBI reports say this is primarily on the Republican side, where they radicalize all that information. FBI reports say radicalization has happened more on the right than it has on the left. But if you don't read and you don't read the reports and you don't know anything about the report, you would think it's the left. It's not the left, it's the right, according to FBI reports that have been radicalized by this president's speech.
Pitch to voters across the country that Donald Trump poses an existential threat to democracy, that he is a fascist, and that they compare him to Hitler.
Well, he is a fascist. He is and he's a scammer. So,
I mean, these are despicable statements that the American people have been consuming for years. And so many mentally...
It makes sense that they attack Trump because Trump is a scammer and he lied and scammed. He scammed the goofies out of their money, scammed the goofies into voting for him, scammed the goofies into believing that he was for America first. That's why they mad. I ain't voting for President Trump no more. He lied. Yes, he did lie to y'all. Y'all goofies believed everything he said. He lied to y'all. He cared about the rich people. He want to get the rich people money. He's scamming us right now. $10 billion from the IRS. How that ain't no scam? He been scamming. Those people who got scammed, the ones who voted for him, are madder than us. We already know what he is. Us Democrats already know he's trash. It's the Republicans that voted for him that are finding out that he's trash.
Disturbed individuals are led to believe these words are truth and then are inspired to act on it. I have a whole host of examples that we can share with you after. It is pages and pages of major Democrat Party elected officials saying, such as Rep. Hakeem Jeffries just this month said, "We are in an era of maximum warfare everywhere all the time."
Now, you see, she brought up the lie about Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries had a whole statement in terms of what she's talking about. Had nothing to do with violence or anything else. You see, she just lies straight out of her back. I knew that was one of the ones that was coming. The Jimmy Kimmel one was coming. They only pick out the ones that seem extreme to them, that is normal every day, that might be normal everyday talk for everybody. But they never say anything about what the president said. You never say anything about what the president said. It's always about this is the no accountability White House.
Governor Josh Shapiro said heads need to roll within the administration. Senator Alex Padilla said people are, quote, dying because of fear and terror caused by the Trump administration. Senator Elizabeth Warren, President Trump is making the country look like a, quote, fascist state. Senator Adam Schiff saying President Trump using a dictator playbook. Senator Ed Markey calling President Trump a dictator, saying that this administration's actions are authoritarianism on steroids. Governor J.B. Pritzker, never before in my life have I called for mass protest disruptions. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. You have Rep. Presley saying,
yes, those are moments of peace. Those are statements. Those are not calls to violence. There's a difference. There's a call to violence, and then there's a call to protesting. Y'all got to know the difference. What did y'all side say? Let's see. What did y'all side say?
And we'll see you in the streets. Monica McIver, a Democrat representative on Capitol Hill, we will not take
What did
this
y'all
shit from
side
Donald
say?
Trump. He thinks he's a dictator. We are at war. These are Democrat elected officials
No,
calling
I
for
want
war
to.
against the president of the United States and his support.
No, I want to know what your side said. I want to know what your side said. What did your side say, Karoline Levitt? What did your side say? Go over there on X and see what your side says. Your side saying even crazier shit. We got people in my chat who be calling me demonic. We got people in the chat who be calling me ill and violent and demonic. There's people in the chat, they talk worse. What do your people say, Karoline Levitt? Okay. What does your people say?
Supporters. I could go on and on, but again, when you have people in positions of power that are saying things like this every single day for years, you are inspiring violence by people who are already mentally.
No. Do y'all know what they used to say when Obama was president? Did anybody look at any of those things that they used to say every day about Obama? Now we worried about what people say when it's on the other foot. Nobody worried about the horrible things they were saying when President Obama was president. Nobody worried about the horrible things they were saying when Biden was president. Now everybody's, but nobody came out in the Biden era or the Obama era. Nobody came out on the platform like this young lady and said, "Oh, my boss is getting threatened. Oh, woe is me. I'm saying y'all so mean to my boss. Y'all always saying mean things to my boss." You never saw anybody come out and say that in Obama's era or Biden's era. Why is such a pussy White House? I don't understand. Pussy White House who never take accountability for the things that they do and say. But it's always somebody else's fault. It ain't never their fault. I'm still trying to figure out when she gonna take accountability for the lacks in that law enforcement, lacks in that security at that hotel, the correspondence dinner. When y'all gonna take accountability that y'all had shitty security? Please take accountability for that. Soon, please take accountability for that.
Ill. And that's what we've seen against this president for far too long.
This is disinformation and misinformation online. There will be bite-sized clips that will go viral to the point where there are Americans in this country that believe that what happened Saturday night was staged.
Why wouldn't some people think it was staged? Every time the poll numbers are low, this president get an assassination attempt. Y'all didn't have no security in that hotel that could keep that man out of that particular area and get past security. How was he in a room with guns and y'all didn't know he was in the room with guns? How y'all had not done a sweep of the hotel before when that person got in the hotel, the day before the president got there, the day of the president got, why y'all hadn't done any kind of sweep, any kind of anything? And this man got by. He was 2-3 floors down or 2-3 floors up. Never could have got to the president. Why y'all talking about assassination? He never could have got to none of y'all. He couldn't have got past the security if the security was where they were supposed to be. If they were guarding the door, why nobody wasn't guarding the door that man ran through? We all saw the video. He ran straight through them and then shot one of them. How that happen? Y'all so security minded. 3 people close to the presidency, in line of the presidency, and y'all ain't got no more security than that, and y'all let that man get through? Sounds to me like setup. They threw JD Vance, got out of there before the president. They threw him out. They brought him out the door before the president. Before the president. Freaking, what's his name? Cash Patel almost hiding under the fucking table. How he almost hiding under the table and he had the FBI. Make it make sense. Looking around. Other dude, white, last name white, he's sitting at the table just looking around. He said it was exciting, man. This is exciting. Why wouldn't we believe it's some kind of stage, some kind of setup? Why wouldn't we believe that?
Does this White House tackle that with social media companies out there, whether it's X, Facebook, Instagram? How do they work with these companies to make sure that doesn't get out of control?
It's certainly a good question, Aisha. I don't have tangible answers for you on what we're doing with social media companies, if anything at all. What I will say is it's very important to us that we get the truth and the facts about this case and any case out there as quickly as possible to dispel some of that crazy nonsense that you do see running rampant online.
It doesn't matter whether he's bulletproof, Goofy. He's the head of the FBI. He's supposed to be running towards the sound of the gunfire. He's not supposed to be cowering under the table. I'm supposed to be cowering under the table. He's not supposed to be cowering under the table. He's the head of the FBI. What do you mean? He's supposed to be going to see what's going on. He's literally almost, you could see him ducking down, looking around. You the head of the FBI. What the fuck you doing?
And I think the Department of Justice and the FBI thus far have done a good job of disseminating the truth and the facts about this alleged attempted assassin, the perpetrator in this case. And I understand he'll be arraigned in court very soon. You all see that, in the Department of Justice will be giving a briefing and an update later today. So as far as we're concerned, just providing maximum transparency and hopefully people will believe the truth rather than the lies and the conspiracies that so often do go crazy on social media. Rachel.
Thanks, Caroline. Does the administration view this as a security failure?
Do they view it as a security failure? I view it as a security failure. Do they view it as a security failure? Or are we gonna give them big ups, all of them big ups for letting that dude run through there and shoot one of y'all? Hey, big ups for him letting him get through and shoot one of y'all. What? Let's see if the no accountability White House takes accountability for this lax in security.
Or did the protocols work as they were designed?
The president has said he believes that the protocols worked. Again, you had a perpetrator who tried to breach the security parameter that was set up by Secret Service, and he was running as fast as he could and was immediately neutralized moments later. And again, having been right up there on the stage with the president and the first lady.
Yeah, but he was able to get a shot off. That's what you're not getting. He was able to get on the floor, get a shot off, run past 5 dudes, make it make sense that it wasn't a security failure. But is this no accountability White House going to take accountability for that?
I can tell you it was seconds before we were told to get down, and it was seconds before we found ourselves in the hold room backstage. It all happened literally within a matter of seconds. The president, the vice president, and the first lady being pulled to safety. That is not done if there's a lapse. So Secret Service did their jobs well. They communicated with one another to remove the president and the vice president to safety as quickly as they could, and obviously to neutralize the shooter as well. And thank God they did, because if that man was allowed into that ballroom, it would have been a much different scene.
And just one more follow-up on just how the White House could be rethinking security protocols going forward. I mean, we all remember after the attempted assassination in Butler, there were indoor rallies that were held after that. Is that out of the question, changing any additional security protocols when it comes to how the president does these events that are outside of the White House?
I definitely wouldn't say changes are out of the question. I think, again, that it's up to the White House here, and we view it as a great responsibility to ensure the maximum safety of the president and the vice president and the entire cabinet. And so we're always looking for ways to improve security. I think if you just sit here and say everything is perfect all the time, that's not a good way to operate. And so the White House will continue to engage with DHS and with Secret Service to find ways to improve and strengthen security. But as far as Saturday night is concerned, the president was satisfied with the response, and he's very grateful to the men and women who provided the.
That's wild to me. Why would you be satisfied? They didn't get to me, so I'm satisfied. They didn't get on the floor, so I'm satisfied. Wow. That's why people keep thinking every time you turn around, you have an assassination attempt, and they don't get this motherfucker. They don't get to him, but it's always an attempt. Always an attempt. And it always happens when your poll numbers is at its lowest. What's going on? What's going on?
Response for him and his wife and members of his team.
Caroline.
Deanna.
Thanks, Caroline. The president has talked about rescheduling the dinner within 30 days. Does he have a specific venue in mind? And would he consider hosting it at the White House?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have a room big enough here at the White House, which is another point to be made. And the president is absolutely right. It's why the White House.
That's why he asked to have the ballroom finished. There's a lawsuit against the ballroom happening. So he wants you to finish with the lawsuit. He wants you to drop the lawsuit and get the ballroom finished so we can have stuff in the ballroom. Y'all do know there's a bunker underneath that ballroom, right? There's a bunker that people can go in and get locked in there, right? Y'all do know that, right?
This ballroom project is not just a fun project for President Trump, like you will read in the media. It is actually critical for our national security that a larger, secure building on this complex, which is the most secure complex in the world, is built to accommodate not only large amounts of guests, but also the president, the vice president, members of the cabinet. The line of succession in this country should be able to gather freely in safety without the fear of threats or political.
But there was a line of people. There was a line of succession there on that night, and you had a gunman. Should never have happened. There was a lax in security, but this no accountability White House won't even admit that there was a lack in security because they should have found that man before he got to that floor.
Violence, and the White House ballroom will provide that, and so it's critical that we get this project done as quickly as possible.
Iran as well.
Thank you,
Caroline.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions, if that's all right. First, on the security situation on Saturday, kind of a follow-up here. Previous administrations have sent both the president and the vice president to the dinner, but after the foil attack on Saturday, if the dinner is rescheduled, would President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance both plan on attending? And is it wise to have both of them in the same spot, given the presidential line of succession that you mentioned a second ago?
It's definitely a good question, and I know that it's one that will be raised. I can assure you.
I raised it. I raised it when I first heard about the shooting. I said, how do you have all the cabinet members? You got the head of the FBI, you got the vice president, House Speaker, Vice President, President, and the Senate Speaker. You got them all in the same room, all in the line of succession, and then you have a breach of security like this. You cannot call it anything other than a security failure. You cannot call it anything other than security failure on their part, on all of their parts. But there's no accountability. White House won't say that. It's all their fault. Nobody should have got through. They should have got that guy up out of that hotel before he even got started.
The president intends to attend the event, as he has told all of you publicly. I don't want to rule in or out the vice president's attendance, but certainly that's a conversation that will take place.
And Iran has proposed a mutual reopening of the strait, leaving the nuclear discussion for later in the process. Given that the nuclear program has been a red line for this administration, would the president agree to that kind of phased negotiation?
Well, only because it's been reported. I will confirm the president has met with his national security team this morning. The meeting may be ongoing, maybe not. I don't want to speak affirmatively because I was prepping to come out here, but the proposal was being discussed. I don't want to get ahead of the president or his national security team. What I will reiterate is that the president's red lines with respect to Iran have been made very, very clear, not just to the
Yes, his red lines have been made very, very clear. The red lines are they cannot have a nuclear weapon, and they have to open the Strait of Hormuz. And Iran says no. And they want them to give up their proxies and Hezbollah and all the good things. And they're not willing to do that. They're not willing to give up the Hezbollah and the proxies and all that. Iran is not willing to do that. And they're not willing to give up their uranium either. And like I said, their uranium is 300 miles in Iran, inside of Iran, 300 miles in, which means you would have to have foot soldiers. You would have to have boots on the ground in order to get it and retrieve it. So are we going to have boots on the ground? Because Iran ain't trying to hear it.
The American public, but also to them as well.
So they're considering it.
I wouldn't say they're considering it. I would just say that there was a discussion this morning that I don't want to get ahead of, and you'll hear directly from the president, I'm sure, on this topic very soon.
And that's why the last meeting on that Saturday in Islamabad in Pakistan didn't yield any kind of results, because Iran said, hell no, we're not giving up our proxies, we're not giving up our uranium, and we're not opening up the Strait of Hormuz. The problem right here is the president has no leverage against Iran. This is why Iran is winning this war so far, because we have no leverage against them. they can continue to make the Strait of Hormuz unnavigationable, as they would say. They can continue to make it dangerous for ships, for cargo, for ships, barges to go through there. They can make that, do that every day. And you would have to get boots on the ground in order to get that uranium from Iran. What are you going to do? You're going to bomb the country, bomb it out of existence? Is that what you're saying? So there's no leverage that the United States has. They only have the might and power. They only have the might. And you could just keep bombing, but they're still going to do what they got to do. And eventually people are going to say enough is enough. Okay.
I'm going to ask you about the Fed chairman, but first, 3 assassination attempts in 3 years. Is this going to change the type of events that the president?
Oh, yeah, I forgot to say. This was the first time that the president attended a correspondence ball. The first time out of 2 terms. He had 1 term and he never came. This is the first time he ever came to a correspondence ball. They had lax in security. They acted like it wasn't no big deal. We got the FBI crouched under the table. They took the vice president out first. And it was in a hotel that they should have swept and cleaned out. Why wouldn't we think this is a scam? Why wouldn't we think this is some kind of joke of an assassination attempt? Every time this president's poll numbers get like this, he get an assassination attempt. And on top of all those other factors. Never attended a ball before, never wanted to attend a ball, never decided that he was going to go. Now he wants to go. And this is when we have another assassination attempt? Why wouldn't we think it's a fake assassination attempt? Why wouldn't people think that?
Goes to.
Well, again, that's going to be part of the conversations moving forward. But as you heard from President Trump, he does not want these deranged lunatics and these grave acts of political violence to change our American way of life. And I think it's a very brave thing for him to say. It'd be very easy for him to just hunker down here at the White House where he knows he's safe. But the president wants to be out across the country. He wants to go across the country to meet with Americans. He wants to celebrate the 250th birthday of our nation's anniversary this summer. As you know, we're gearing up for a big UFC fight here on the South Lawn. So there's many exciting events I know the president wants to be part of and will be part of moving forward. He's undeterred in that way, and it's something that inspires all of us here to keep going.
Senator Tillis is now dropping his objection to allowing Kevin Warsh to be confirmed because the DOJ has closed their investigation. Is the president satisfied that an inspector general report into the Federal Reserve is enough to look into these renovations?
The president understands that the inspector general has greater tools at their disposal, perhaps even more powerful than a grand jury, to continue investigating the financial mismanagement of the Fed building, which is a priority for the president. Look, he's a builder himself.
No, he's a petty human being. He's a petty human being, and he couldn't fire Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell's term is up in May, so it's a null and void. Now you're going to drop the lawsuit because he's not going to be the Fed anymore. So there's no point in you trying to get him out of office. There's no point in you trying to sue him because he's about to be out of office come a couple weeks. So let's just drop it now. Ain't no big deal. It never was a big deal because it was just something petty that the president wanted to do with his petty ass.
When he sees something has a lot of cost overruns, is taking too long, and in this case ripping off the American taxpayer, he wants to get to the bottom of it. I understand Senator Tillis put out a statement saying he'll support.
No, he don't want to get to the bottom of it. Otherwise he wouldn't have dropped the suit. He dropped the suit because it was invalid. and Powell wasn't worried about it because it was invalid. It was just one of those suits that the president likes to call on people. Yeah.
Support Kevin Warsh's confirmation. That has been our position all along from day one. He is more than qualified for the job, and we look forward to working with the Senate on his swift confirmation process. Megan.
As a follow-up on that,
Ain't that what she said about every person that this president has put into office? Cash Patel, Bondi, no, ain't that, and Hegseth, wasn't this the same thing she said about them? He's the most qualified person. We just love them. They just the best. And now we finding out all these people goofies. Ain't that? See, that's why I call her the lying Karoline Levitt. Because you listen to the things she say, and half the shit she say is a lie. We done found out that the people that President Trump put in his cabinet are goofies, drunks, and thieves and scammers.
Will the president be satisfied once the Fed's Inspector General finishes that investigation, even if it finds no evidence of wrongdoing?
Well, that's a hypothetical question. I'll let the president speak on it when we see the results. It's obviously far too early to say.
And relatedly, as a follow-up, now that it looks like Warsh will be confirmed by the end of Jay Powell's.
No, nobody's lied as much as this press secretary. She lies every time she puts a thought out. This is only this second. No, I'm sorry. Who's behind her is that other one who was the press secretary in Donald Trump's first term. Chick with the brown hair. She was a liar too.
Term. Is he still considering firing Jay Powell if he stays on as governor after that?
I haven't talked to him about it specifically, but I think the president will be satisfied once Kevin Warsh is confirmed as the Fed chair, which he should be.
Of course, he's going to be satisfied when he's confirmed as the chair, because then he can't get Jerome Powell out of it. He can't get Jerome Powell off of anything. He can't fire Jerome Powell. He just never could. I don't even know why he tried.
Karen.
What do you mean, set my bias aside? What do you mean? Nobody lied. Nobody lied like this person. Nobody lies like this person every time she opens her mouth. Nobody has lied like this every time she opens her mouth. Nobody.
On Iran, the president had said last week that the U.S. has started the process of clearing the Strait of Hormuz of mines. Do you have an update on how many have been removed and an estimate of how long that process could take?
I don't, but I would defer you to the Pentagon on that. We'll make sure they get you an answer,
Is it
Karen.
an ongoing process, though? It's still actually happening right now?
Again, I would defer you to the Pentagon on anything with respect to clearing mines in the Strait.
They're not doing anything in the Strait of Hormuz. They're not doing anything. Iran is not allowing them to do anything in the Strait of Hormuz, because that's all they have to do is set the mines off if you come near them. So they haven't done anything. The only thing they try to do and they're planning to do or they're doing is the blockade. That's as good as they can do it.
Hormuz.
I know that you said that the White House is reviewing the security protocols for things that could be done differently.
Because people see it just how I see it. It's a big, gigantic security failure. People see it. Everybody see it like anybody who's unbiased, anybody who ain't like AWOL thoughts, who ain't like you, who must be a part of the MAGA goofy team. Everybody sees it as a security threat. It was a security lapse in security. That's why they keep asking the question. It's the third person that's asking about security lapse, because it was a security lapse.
In the future, have you identified anything so far that you would like to see done differently, or ask the Secret Service to make any changes in the security protocols for the president, particularly at these large events that are taking place off the White House campus?
Not yet, no, but as I said, there will be a meeting here at the White House.
Yes, I heard you say that, but that's the only thing that you agree with. Everything else, you giving me the goddamn MAGA talking points. That's the only thing you said there was a security lapse.
In the earlier half of this week, so those conversations will take place.
And on the line of success,
And I would also just add, look, the Secret Service does not detail their procedures or operations to the public for obvious reasons, because you have crazy people who try to hijack them and get around them. So these conversations will take place in private, but if adjustments need to be made to protect the president, they will be made.
You ain't the only person that I'm talking to. I'm talking to I'm talking to an audience that will watch this later, whoever watches this later. Most people know it's a security lapse. Why is this this lady right here, Karoline Levitt, saying, no, it's not a security lapse. No, it ain't that. It ain't that. It ain't our fault. Ain't none of it our fault. It's the Democrat talking points. It's their fault. It's no accountability whatsoever for y'all not securing the line of succession to the presidency, the cabinet, the FBI, all those people. No accountability for what they're supposed to be doing or what they should have done. This is all their fault. This is the no accountability White House.
Just doing like it does, for instance, with a joint address to Congress for these large events, and designating someone as the designated survivor for future large events that the cabinet attends.
Well, those conversations ahead of the walk of dinner did take place, but there were several members of the cabinet in the line of succession who did not attend for various personal reasons. So designating one survivor was not necessary, as we had several members who were not there already.
Caroline, people forced to dive under tables and fearing for their lives on a Saturday night, including many of the people in this room, myself included. What is the president's message to those people who experienced that terrible trauma and maybe are still fearful today?
I think he would say, as he sort of did on Saturday night, coming in here in his tuxedo, we can't allow these crazy people to let us be afraid. We have to keep moving forward, showing up, doing our job, celebrating our country, and doing what we know is right. But certainly we'd like to see the rhetoric against this president and his supporters toned down, because it is inspiring these crazy people across the country to target not just the president, but those who work for him and those who support him. And it must end.
Is he following the arraignment of the suspect today?
Yes, he is. And I know you all want to follow that too. It's happening in a few minutes. So I'll let you all go. The Department of Justice is also going to be speaking momentarily following the arraignment. And I pray that this is the last time I speak to you for some time until after my maternity leave. So thank you guys.
So that's very subtle message. Yeah, Patel, she got to deal with the Patel person. They had did they have the what is it? What was it called? It was a presser for arraignment, right? Okay, there you go. That's it. Let me put that on there. The presser for the presser for the arraignment presser. I'm sorry. Puro. What's the name? I hate when I catch these small. Let's see. What'd she say? What did this lady say?
And is being charged with 2 counts, 924C, using a firearm during a crime of violence, and a second crime under 111, which is assault on a federal officer using a dangerous weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you all know, there was an individual, a uniformed Secret Service officer, who was shot. And fortunately, he is doing all right and he will be fine. But it is clear, based upon what we know so far, that this individual was intent on doing as much harm and as much damage as he could. And thankfully, because of the checkpoint right outside the ballroom, where thousands of people were situated to hear the President of the United States, because that checkpoint worked, there was no one who was injured when it was clear where this defendant was going. Now, I want to make one comment. As a participant, someone who was in the ballroom, who came this evening to be part of a very lovely event at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, I, for the first time, was in a situation where there were shots fired, shots heard, and a whole room went silent. When I lifted my head and when I looked up, every law enforcement officer was out there as we all had our heads down, thousands of them. These are the men and women every day.
Except Kash Patel. Except Kash Patel. Let's be clear. The FBI, the head of the FBI was damn near hovering under the table. Let's be clear. We didn't see him. We got a picture of him.
Who do what they do silently, and they do it with courage and with dignity. Thank God for our partners, the FBI, the Secret Service, the Metropolitan Police, all of them tonight acted so quickly that they prevented what could have been a horrific event where we were all sitting there in one room. The defendant will be arraigned on Monday in federal district court, but make no mistake, there will be many more charges based upon the information that we are learning in this very fluid situation. Thank you. Now the defendant is being charged with 2 counts.
All right. So they got their guy. They got their guy. The guy is there. I could have sworn I saw he was is he black? I think he's black or whatever he is, right? We saw him. So look, the situation with this correspondence dinner, there's a lot of failures, security failures. She said right outside the ballroom, She said they were right outside the ballroom. Were they right outside the ballroom? I thought they were like 3 levels above or 3 levels below. 2 levels above or 2 levels below. That's what my understanding was. I thought he wasn't even on the same floor. That was my understanding. I could be wrong, but I thought they were on a different floor. Who knows? Who knows? He never should have got as far as he did. And I mean, that's fine. y'all need to not have this particular ball go on as soon as possible. Stop announcing those kind of things. Make sure your designated people are where they're supposed to be. They can't be at the party. You had lines of succession in that party, and it never should have went through it. They should have had security. The Speaker of the House should have had security. Hakeem Jeffries should have had security. The Vice President should have had security. FBI, the President, all those people should have had their own security. They all should have been coordinating, making sure that all the rooms that were upstairs were cleared out, depending on how many rooms were upstairs in the building, right? Depending. But you could have took 2 or 3 different law enforcement agencies and cleared out all those rooms. Okay. He was barely within. Yeah, like really? I mean, he didn't get that far. I get it. He couldn't have got that far because I think he was like 2 or 3 levels below or above. Okay, so it was what it was. Hopefully, they put more protocols in place where this never happens again. Okay, but let's address the fact that people think it's a hoax. First of all, he never went to the ones in his first term. And this is the first one that he's ever went to. There was no initial. There was no opening act. They were sitting right out in front where everybody could see. Every person that was in the line of succession was there. What's the name? Cash Patel was ducking under the table. They took the vice president out first. The president's poll numbers was low. Every time his poll numbers is low, they try to pull out a doggone an assassination attempt every time. Why wouldn't we think it was staged? Why wouldn't we have that idea that maybe it was staged? The security is lax. With that many people in the room, with that many important people in that building, you have lax security where that person can run past y'all and he shot one person, but nobody else, he didn't get shot. All them people got guns and whatnot, and he didn't get shot, but one of y'all got shot. How that make sense to y'all? How that make sense? Because it don't make sense to me. Y'all all had guns and bullets. Why wasn't he shot? He shot one of y'all. Ran past y'all. How did he get down there on that floor at that door thing or at that doorstep? What was he thinking? Where was he at? Why didn't he figure out where the party was? How was he running on a floor that wasn't nowhere near the party? I don't understand. So these are questions that I have. This is why people think this stuff is some goofy shit. Maybe it was set up. Who knows? We don't know. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying this is why people may think that. So this is where we at with this doggone goofy. There's no accountability warehouse. No accountability White House. This is what I call it. The no accountability White House. Because they never take accountability for nothing that they do and they say. Talking about the Democrats, their rhetoric is bringing these crazies out. No, the FBI reports have said most of the dangerous rhetoric and the danger comes from the right, the people on the right. That's where most of the danger comes from, according to FBI reports. I'm not saying this. FBI reports have said this, that most of the danger has come from the right. President Trump doesn't make it any better because he spews this garbage and this nonsense about Democrats being demonic, demons, dangerous. He spews that, and all his supporters spew that same rhetoric, that same garbage. You don't think that's dangerous rhetoric? Okay. 2, I'm not saying it was a Democrat or a Republican. Nobody's saying anything like that. He did donate to a $25 to a left-wing organization, but that's it. Okay, he did donate to wait a minute. He did donate to a left-wing organization, but that was neither here nor there. Okay. That's what he did. He also, as I explained to AWOL Thoughts, I said most Democrats understand that this president is a scammer and this president is shitty. We understand that. No need to try to off him. It's the people that didn't know he was a scammer, the people who got scammed, the people who got misled, the people who think he's America first. Those people are the ones that are disillusioned. Those are the people that are disillusioned. People who found out that he was a scammer. Oh man, I voted for this dude and he a scammer? Yes, he's a scammer. He's been a scammer. He's always a scammer. He's always been a scammer. We knew that. Unfortunately, people who voted for him didn't know that, and they found it out pretty quick that he was a scammer and he's not America first. So 9 times out of 10, it would probably be a right winger that would be trying to assassinate this president because they're disillusioned about what he said and what he's been doing. But that's neither here nor there. We talked about Karoline Levitt. She came out, said a couple of lies like she always do, tried to throw the blame back on everybody else except the president and his team. This is a failure, a security failure on the part of the president. This is a security failure on FBI, CIA, whoever is in charge of security. It was a failure on their part because that man never should have been on camera with no gun charging through y'all. He was the one who shot somebody. Nobody shot him. Why y'all didn't shoot him? All y'all had guns, but none of y'all shot him? He was the only one that got shots off? That's the whole, that there's a failure right there for him to have gotten through y'all. He ran straight through y'all. Straight through y'all. How did he run straight through y'all and then manage to shoot one of y'all? And it's not considered a failure. All 3 lines of succession to the presidency was at that dinner. Even though they had a designated person off site, there still was 3, 4, 5 different people who were in line of succession, and they were there. It never should have happened. It never should have been any kind of security threat. First time the president ever went to a correspondence dinner, he didn't go in his first term. This is the first time he went in his second term, and security was lax, like it wasn't no big deal. So why wouldn't we think this was a goofy attempt or a fake attempt on his life? Why wouldn't people think that? I'm not saying that. Why wouldn't people think that? But if you appreciate my comments, you appreciate this breakdown of this whole video, please hit a like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate y'all, and I'll be back with another video later on. Definitely will. I appreciate